Hi everyone, my name is Michele Fasnacht, and this is my first time ever sharing my personal story in a public forum like this. So I named my speech, Ignored to Restored, and because it's really, truly a story of my journey that's led me to where I am today. As a young kid, like many of you, I was brought up on cheap meats like tuna fish and chicken nuggets, and boxed processed foods like macaroni and cheese and hamburger helper. Who remembers those things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My favorite food was cereal with milk. I literally could eat it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Loved it. I dealt with allergies and acne, and I was not really a cute kid, to be honest with you. We didn't eat things like steak at my house a lot, but when I went to other places to have steak, I didn't like it. I didn't like the texture. I didn't like the taste. And that was kind of how I felt about most meat. So I just didn't really have a craving for it. I craved the really good stuff, like the tuna fish and chicken nuggets. My dad's family had a farm, and he was a hunter and a fisherman. And from the time that I was old enough to understand what he was doing, I immediately professed that I was against it. Then one day, we were at a family barbecue, and my father gave me a hamburger, and he told me to eat it. And I didn't want to eat it, because I actually really didn't like meat very much. But he was really pushy, like the whole family was being really pushy. So I took it and took a bite, and everybody started laughing at me. And they said, "Oh, ha, ha, that's the deer burger from the deer I killed that's been in the freezer." And at that moment, I literally threw myself down on the ground, crying and throwing a temper tantrum. And I swear to you, my entire family remembers this, because I was like a 2-year-old hysterical on the ground, because at that moment I connected the food to an actual living, breathing animal, and I had just taken a bite of Bambi. At that point, the people around me called me a vegetarian. Since I didn't know a vegetarian, I didn't know what that word was. I had never heard the word vegetarian, pescatarian, or vegan in my life. Where I grew up, you had meat eaters. That was it. There was no vegetarian, pescatarian, or vegan. That didn't exist. So I later learned that I really wasn't a vegetarian because I was still consuming shellfish. I was actually a pescatarian. But because the people that I was around were so backwoods and didn't know any other terminology, if you didn't eat meat, no matter what else you did, you were a vegetarian. So I grew up thinking I was a vegetarian. When my first child developed eczema, I learned about dairy being the cause of many skin problems. So we started buying alternative milks. And I didn't drink milk again after that. But man, did I love my cheese. I love cheese every day of my life and on everything. I mean everything. I loved it. I was avoiding milk for skin issues, but consuming cheese didn't even connect the two. Starting in my 20s, I really started having a lot of weird medical issues, like numbness in my feet and fingers. I was really, really tired, and I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. That's really weird for a 20-year-old. This continued on, things got worse, and then I hit my 30s. And man, things were getting worse and worse in my 30s. My allergies were worse. I developed a chronic cough that would never go away. I became sick a few times a year with chronic and acute bronchitis, and I was on antibiotics all the time. I was developing a myriad of health problems, and doctors couldn't give me one diagnosis. They would give me a different diagnosis every single time I went into the doctor's office. A different diagnosis and a different pill. A different doctor, a different diagnosis, a different pill. A different doctor, 3 different diagnoses, and 5 different pills. It was crazy. I started having this really bad back pain that would keep me in the bed for days, and I was diagnosed with bulging discs from the top of my spine down to my coccyx bone and a herniated L4, L5, and I was told that I had to have surgery. I was diagnosed with carpal and cubital tunnel syndrome of both hands and arms that required surgery. I had it on this right hand and arm, and I went through a really bad recovery. Several months later, the pain returned in my right arm, and I was told that maybe the surgery didn't take and they would need to try it again, and that sometimes happens. So, over the coming months, I was diagnosed with high cholesterol, vitamin D deficiency, hypothyroidism, and osteopenia. I was put on a ton of medications, but this is when things took a drastic change for the worse. I was suffering from extreme exhaustion, terrible constipation, brain fog where I could not think, tingling and numbness in all my extremities, frequent coughing and vomiting, severe sleep deprivation, and agonizing pain. Agonizing pain. My health was worsening, and my medical files were so thick and full of so many diagnoses that you would have thought I was 100 years old. And yes, I'm starting to cry saying that because it was a horrible time of my life. I hit 40, and everything just continued to get worse. I met a naturopathic doctor who actually took the time to listen to what I was saying. And at the end of the conversation, he said to me, "I think you have lupus or MS." I had brought these terms up to doctors for years because MS runs in my family. So I always said, could I have MS? And every doctor said that I absolutely didn't have it and didn't need to be tested for it, and I was being a hypochondriac for even suggesting it. So I winded up getting an ANA, which tested positive for lupus. I winded up getting an MRI of the brain that came back with hundreds of active lesions and a diagnosis of progressive MS, which is the worst form of MS that there is. During this time, I was at the lowest point of my life. I had developed optic neuritis from the MS, and I was legally blind. I was walking with a cane, and I was in chronic, horrific pain. I was given steroid infusions that had a ton of reactions. I started a monthly infusion called Tisabri, which was to keep the MS from developing new flares or exacerbations. I lived sick and disabled, and my quality of life was down here. At the age of 44, I developed a new flare on Tisabri, and it was the inability to swallow. The MS was interfering with the nerves that would help push the food down, and I was literally at risk of choking on my own saliva. Fortunately, that flare passed, and I was able to regain swallowing, but I was back to my normal, everyday problems of numbness, tingliness, horrible brain fog, where I can't even always remember what something is, confusion, walking instability, pain, eyesight issues, dexterity issues, electric shocks, and the list just goes on and on. I couldn't drive because my eyesight wasn't stable, and much of the time I couldn't remember how to get from my house somewhere because of the brain fog being so intense. I was labeled disabled, and my abilities were severely limited, and I was severely, severely depressed. My life now consisted of problems and pains every day, and being on an infusion every 28 days for the rest of my life. This was my future if it didn't get worse. Progressive MS gets worse. At this point, I was only to take a shower once a week because it was so difficult for me to stand up, and washing my hair was impossible. I was gaining weight like crazy from all of the medications I was on and all of the steroid treatments. I was having so much anxiety because my vision was so erratic. I had the most serious intestinal and bowel issues that you can ever imagine. One of the first things the neurologist said to my husband and I was to prepare for me to be fully disabled and to start getting things ready. And so we were. I had bars in the shower and in the bathroom like you see in elderly people's houses. I had a shower chair because I couldn't stand up for more than a minute in the shower. I had canes that I used regularly to walk. I had a walker. I had a wheelchair. I have a service dog. Why? Because I was falling all the time, and that dog was trained to help get me off the floor. He was also trained for emergency medical situations to get me the medical bag or to get help. I had emergency apps on my computer and phone to keep track of the millions of medications I was on because I couldn't remember to take them or what I was supposed to take. I joined the Death with Dignity Act in Oregon and was literally discussing with my husband moving there because I didn't want to continue with how things were. That makes me so sad to say that. I knew I was headed to be completely blind and completely bedbound, and I didn't want that for me, and I didn't want it for him. And then something happened. I was on Facebook one night, and I saw a video of a dairy cow explaining what dairy cows went through. The video literally made me begin to sob and sick to my stomach. I immediately started researching what I had just seen. Like, is this true? Because I had no idea what dairy cows went through to get milk. And in my case, cheese, because I was eating cheese every day. I wasn't drinking milk, but man, was I taking that cheese down every day. From this video, I learned that cows were artificially inseminated. I was literally stupid enough that believed that happy cows produce milk. How in the world does a 40-year-old believe something stupid like that? I mean, I have degrees and certifications, and I believed happy cows produce milk. I didn't know they had to be artificially inseminated. And that they go through 9 months of pregnancy like a human, and then their babies are taken away from them. Their babies get pulled away crying, and their moms are crying for the babies, but they're still separated. The mothers are hooked up to machines so the milk can be given to humans to drink. If they're boy baby cows, they're either sent immediately to slaughter or sent to be veal a few weeks later. The female babies are going to become milking cows and destined for the same future as their moms. And this process is going to be repeated as long as the mother can produce milk over and over again. This was totally cruel and totally new to me, but then I learned even one more thing. That all dairy cows are sent to the slaughterhouse when their milk is all dried out. So here, I haven't been eating meat my life because I didn't want animals slaughtered for food. But the cheese that I've been consuming every day still produced the same cruelty. I had no idea. So at that moment, as soon as I learned that, I gave up all forms of dairy. That moment, done. It was a very quick and easy decision for me. The minute I realized what was involved in the dairy industry. Done. Ready? 24 hours after giving up dairy, something happened to my body that was completely shocking. It's something really personal, and typically I only share it in my health groups. But what I'll tell you is that there was something that I dealt with every day of my life for over a decade, and it was literally disgusting and horrible. It didn't happen the next day. 24 hours later, it stopped happening. I immediately connected the fact that I hadn't had dairy to the fact that this issue disappeared that I had for 24/7 for over a decade of my life. Getting dairy out of my life for just 24 hours, that was it, was a pivotal change for my entire journey. That dairy cow literally saved my life. This caused me to start researching. I didn't consume meat, so I thought I was eating healthy. Was there a link between MS and dairy? How did dairy affect health? How did dairy affect autoimmune diseases or chronic illness? I was stunned at what I was learning, and the fact that no medical doctor out there, out of all the doctors and specialty doctors I've seen for the last 30 years, not one person bothered to mention one word of this to me. I decided to start using myself as an experiment to see how the food I was eating affected my health and my chronic illness. I could not believe what I was learning and experiencing. I could not believe how my body was responding to what I was doing. Within a few months, I completely changed my health, and every single issue, every single pain, every single problem that I had been dealing with for decades was 100% gone. Everything. Meanwhile, as this is going on, I'm now thinking about this dairy cow. and I'm researching animal cruelty, and I am blown away by all the things that I'm learning and how this is not public knowledge. The animal cruelty on factory farms is a secret. The health problems with eating animal products is a secret. Everything I had ever been told in my whole life was a lie. I've been participating in things that are against everything I morally and ethically stand for because I didn't know. And I'm chronically sick and getting worse because doctors don't know that food literally can cause life or death or cause illness or wellness. I decided that I needed to do whatever I could to get all of this information out to the public. So everything in my life changed. That point was so pivotal because now all my motives became for one thing: to raise awareness about why a plant-based diet is better for human health, for animals, and for the environment. I started taking classes in plant-based nutrition, plant-based cooking, and I hated to cook. I signed up for PhD classes in health and nutrition. I was determined to make sure that others with chronic illness, like myself, didn't live one more day with decreased quality of life when it's not necessary. I became a certified health coach and started working with people nationally who have chronic illness. I'm endorsed as a health coach by Dr. Colin Campbell, who probably most of you know from Forks Over Knives and Plant Pure Nation. My website is plantbasedhealthcoach.org. I run small groups for people who are dealing with chronic illness and they want to improve their quality of life. I work with people from bedbound to fitness instructors. My health classes are one of my most favorite things to do because I get to see people literally transform their lives and regain things that they didn't have for decades. That is literally an amazing experience. But health coaching was a new part of my life. And I was a changed person with a newfound belief system, and I couldn't ignore it in anything else that was going on anywhere in my life. So I wanted to see how and where what I had learned can be applied to others that I care about. So where working with chronically ill people became a focus of my health coaching, I still wanted to get the message out to all the people of the world who aren't chronically ill. You don't have to wait until you're like chronically ill and dying to do something for yourself. In 2004, I had founded a local private school, Solid Rock Community School, which is a K through 12th grade nonprofit private school in Tarpon Springs, Florida. Education is really important to me, and I totally believe that knowledge is power. So here I am, this person who's been awakened to the truth of a plant-based diet being the healthiest for people and the horrors of what we're doing to animals and the environment. But here, I'm running a school that is serving lunches every day to children, some of our most vulnerable people, and the lunches are filled of animal products. Well, sleep on that for a minute. I was so conflicted about this because the county provided the school free and reduced lunches to kids who needed it. But offering plant-based lunches doesn't qualify because to receive that funding, milk is a requirement. And milk is what was killing me. So I did not want anything to do with giving milk to kids. So I was really stuck in a position, what could I do? I felt so conflicted and guilty about this every single day. I was literally going home crying about what I was seeing at lunch. The lunches kids were bringing to school and the lunches we were giving the kids. It made me feel horrible. And then some kind of good news happened. Pinellas County decided their funding for free and reduced lunches was too overstretched and they would not be able to offer meals to my school anymore. So this was really bittersweet for me. On one hand, I don't want their unhealthy food for the kids, but on the other hand, I have kids in the school who need free lunches. So we were in a bittersweet conundrum. So we needed food for kids, but now we need to provide it. So I can assure you, I'm not providing dairy and animal products. So we're going to provide healthy, fresh, plant-based foods. So we hired a chef and created a kid-friendly menu and started our plant-based food program. We are the first school in the state of Florida and the second school in the U.S. to offer a fully plant-based menu. But there is a challenging side. It doesn't qualify for free funding, so there's a fee for food, and that limits some kids from signing up. So I created a sponsor a student campaign where people or businesses could come in and pay for the meals of a student for the year. And we received 10 students who were sponsored for the year, which was amazing. And those people who did it, thank you so much, you're awesome. But there's still more kids, right? We have more kids. We don't just have 10 kids needing the meals. So we've made a step, but we still have more steps to take. So today, Solid Rock Community School has a booth here. It's 105. You can see it from right here in Zone C, right there. And we are giving away free cookies for donations. All of the money raised goes towards the student meal program for kids who can't afford the plant-based meals. So if you'd like to sponsor a child or donate for some cookies, just give a donation, whatever, please do that at booth 105. You're helping kids get healthy plant-based meals, and some of these kids barely have food at home. So we're still working out the kinks in the financial aspects of the meal program, but we've taken a few steps and we're going in a positive direction. And we have right now kids and families and co-workers who have gone completely plant-based, and others who are transitioning, and many others making positive changes. We actually have one of our parents here today who literally transitioned 100% to a plant-based diet, and now she is 100% vegan. So, woo! This year at the school, I started a compassion project. So every Friday we have a whole school assembly, and it focuses on an area of compassion. So we vary weeks. So 1 week is compassion to children with disabilities. 1 week is compassion to the planet with environmentalists. 1 week is compassion for animals with a guest speaker like Vegan Evan or Earthling Ed, or a visit from an animal sanctuary like Rooterville or Kindred Spirits. The next week, compassion towards people of different religions, faiths, or backgrounds. The next week, compassion to our oceans with a guest speaker like Paul Watson, who's here today and was at our school yesterday. Our goal is to raise productive, compassionate citizens and leaders of this world. And in order to do that, kids must be taught to extend their circle of compassion from a young age. That is so important to me. Most recently, our school just formed an Animal Hero Kids after-school club for students who want to do more to help rescue and save animals. The Animal Hero Kids organization just presented our school last week with the School Hero to All Award. And we're only the second school ever to receive it in history, so it was really a great honor. Our school is also the first school in the country to be Ocean Allies Ocean Friendly certified. I could not have accomplished these things being sick. Being healthy and being restored gave me the energy and ability to put these things in motion. My health journey and that dairy cow, I always cry when I talk about that dairy cow because it literally changed my life, and it affected every decision that I made from that day after. Last year at the Veg Fest, I met Dr. Kaushik Reddy, and he was starting an organization called the Plant-Based Lifestyle Movement. He invited me to join the organization, which is a group of medical professionals and community leaders, all dedicated to raise awareness. There he is right there. Thank you. To raise awareness about why a plant-based diet is better for human health. Of course, that's part of my whole mission, so I was happy to be involved. They have a booth right here too, number 109.
pblm.org.
pblm.org. I have a wonderful husband, Eric. I felt so bad for him when I was sick. He was a widow when I met him, and he was facing losing another wife, and he was certainly being a full-time caretaker. This man was a 3-time-a-day meat eater when I met him, and I was vegetarian. But when I got healthy and was full on board vegan, learning everything I was about the animals, I would cry every single night. And out of respect and love for me, He stopped eating animals, but he didn't ditch the dairy. Then, after seeing the transformation with me, he decided to do a juice fast with me one weekend, and he had such great results. He said, I'm staying on a plant-based diet. And he did. That was an amazing moment for me. But I will tell you the very best moment of all. And that was 2 years later, where he proclaimed that he was vegan for animals. To me, plant-based for health is beautiful, but there is nothing sexier than a man who's vegan for animals. So now my husband and I are on the same page, and we are like a power team. We live in borderline Pinellas and Pasco County, and let me tell you, there are no vegan or plant-based restaurants anywhere there. As someone coming from New York, and there was vegan options every few blocks, this has frustrated me with living in Florida. As I became more involved with other things, I really saw the community around me so far behind the times. My husband and I decided to open an educational plant-based vegan restaurant. And yes, we did make up that name, an educational restaurant. Our goal was, number one, we needed a place to eat so we didn't have to drive to St. Pete twice a week. I'm just kidding. I'm not totally kidding with that. Okay, but on the serious side, we wanted to raise awareness to our community and let them start eating and experiencing plant-based foods. We opened Green Culture Restaurant in July of 2019, just a few months ago, and we are in an area that is definitely not wise to the benefits of plant-based diet and not familiar with vegan foods. And in all honesty, a lot of people around there are like, hate vegans. So I'm kidding, I'm not kidding, it's serious. I want to break the mold of the Nazi vegans and show people the benefits of plant-based foods. Green Culture Restaurant is the first restaurant in the county to be Ocean Allies Ocean Friendly certified, and we're platinum level certified. The restaurant is Green Culture, and you can find us online or Facebook or Instagram under Eat Green Culture. Green Culture was created as a franchise so we could plant green cultures wherever an area needs a plant-based and vegan culture boost. And there's a lot of them around here. Like, I have never seen such stuff as this area of Florida, honestly. As the restaurant was occurring, we started seeing and hearing the daily questions of the people coming in, and we needed a way to really reach them beyond just being in the restaurant. So we tried to figure out what we were going to do. So then we created Green Culture Movement, and that's a nonprofit specifically and only designed to raise awareness of the benefits of eating a plant-based diet and how it's better for human health, animals, and the environment. It just opened 3 weeks ago, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Live Green Culture. So that's something that's national and is only meant to support plant-based diet and why it's better for human health, animals, and the environment. No vegan Nazism on that site. We do get a lot of crazy people coming on there, though, I will tell you. There's a lot of haters. I really hope you follow all these things that I'm doing, because I'm doing a lot, and it is not easy. I'm trying to use all of my platforms and all of my resources to get this message out, that it's time to leave animals off the menu and time to put plants on the plate.